Okay, welcome to the wrong show. Oh, I'm gonna have to adjust this. There. Now there. How about there? That's good. Ah. We're loading the game. Commander Strikeman should be joining in a little bit. Okay. Our goal today. /help. Let's see if this works. There it is. Okay. Local system, current star system, wing, multi-crew, squadron, reply, gamer tag, target, send to active voice channel. /voice. Let's see if it works. Hey. /VOICE. Weekly power bonus vouchers, forget it. Bonus reward from developers? What's that? Added the following to your account. Oh, how nice. And oh, twice. Okay.
Frameshift drive charging.
Hello, Larry.
What
Hello,
more do you
Commander.
need?
Fuel scooping.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Wait a second. I'm trying to get your picture to be the big picture on the screen.
Okay.
Fuel scooping complete.
You joined just as I was fueling the ship, so
Well, let's see. What I did last time isn't working.
it's called pinning. You hold your finger on my box, the area,
Right.
and you say pin.
You say pin.
Yeah, there's an option to pin. So I can pin myself.
Oh, right. I just somehow managed to pin myself.
So you can unpin.
Okay, I've unpinned it. Now you have just removed pin. Okay. But now you're not there at all. All I still see is myself.
Okay, let me see.
What I've done wrong here.
You can do gallery view.
I can use,
Then pin.
yeah. I don't see anything on here that says gallery. Wait. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now. Okay, hit pin. But what are you doing on your end?
I'm just scanning the system.
Oh, okay. 'Cause at the moment, I'm seeing sort of just a big. I'm seeing just a gray screen.
Interesting. I see a gray screen too, for you. I think you're covering the camera.
That could be.
Yep, that was it.
That was it.
Oh, you changed the camera to be, instead of pointing at you, it's not. I now see your knee.
But I
go.
thought you weren't going to see me.
What do you mean?
I thought all you were going to see was a still picture of me in my straight out of Princeton cap.
Well, I did that for the cover of the video, but if you want to do that, you'd have to change your settings to, let's see, you'd go to, first of all, you'd go down to video and say stop video. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of the Zoom interface.
Actually, it's in the upper right-hand corner on the
Mac.
All right,
There, so now you've turned off your video.
I've turned off my.
We don't see anything of you, but let me just go to gallery view. Right now I just see the words Larry Strikeman, but if you were to change your settings, video settings, let me see, to profile, There we go. All right, so under settings, there's a section called profile. You edit your
Wait a sec.
profile.
Wait a sec.
Yep, take your time.
I wasn't actually prepared for this. I didn't. The place where I was sitting, I can't sit if I'm going to have my picture visible. I've got to move and set up a table and do a couple of things. So what is it I have to do?
There is I use the little drop-down menu next to stop video
Next
that
to stop
allowed me to get to settings, video settings.
video.
And when I went to video settings, I could then see a bunch of other settings tabs like general, audio, share screen.
Okay, when I get the drop-down menu that I see under share, did you say under stop video? Sorry. I don't get a drop-down menu from stop video.
Okay, so then we're looking around your screen for something that would let you get to settings, like a gear icon or something.
Chat meeting settings.
Yep.
Show controls, touch up my appearance, closed
No.
captioning, show my connected time. Everything is turned on except show my connected time and touch up my appearance.
Yeah, but that's the wrong tab. We want to get to profile.
And where do you think that might be?
It's for general settings for the Zoom application. So instead of settings for the meeting, it's settings for Zoom.
Meeting. Well, under. So far, I don't see anything that. But I'm going to try this again.
Okay,
I'll be back in a minute.
no problem. I think he's still here.
Yes, you can still hear me. I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off. Well, I can't actually figure out how to get out of it. So.
Well, that is on the, for me, that's the bottom right-hand corner. It's a red button that says end.
I now have a screen on which I see the screen is filled with you and the game, and I am down in the corner. And now I am nowhere. So. Say something.
Hello.
You're down in the left-hand corner, and I can hear you. And truthfully, Michael, I'd rather not try and get set up so that you can see me because I have to.
That's not a problem, Larry. We don't need to fix that.
I have to set the room up. I have to change the window shades. I have to set up a table. I have to get up.
We're not going to do it.
Okay.
So don't worry about that. You're already off. So the only thing that matters is whether or not the video we're capturing on my end has me as the main focus with the game. And if I switch to speaker view and double click, on my end, the audience sees nothing but the game and my face right now. And a tiny little corner where it says Larry Strikeman.
And start video.
You don't have to start video.
Oh, well, I just hit start video. I guess I can turn it off.
Yep.
But you want to see something, don't you?
No, I can fix that. Don't worry about that.
participants.
As long as we can hear your voice, we can add your picture.
Okay. Yeah, I misunderstood. I thought from what you told me in the last either conversation. Bear with me a second while I do something in the bathroom.
Okay. It was discovered by somebody else.
Frameshift
Moving
drive
on.
charging.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
That's interesting. Under participants two. Oh yeah. Yeah. I see. It turns green when I'm talking.
Although you do sound far away.
Fuel scooping complete.
Larry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I just went to gallery view, and now I see the window that's outlined in green that has not my picture in it.
Right. Just Larry Strikeman.
If I hit start video, now I see me.
But just so you know, what you see isn't necessarily what I see.
No, I do understand that. It just says you
Okay.
cannot move a video while people are pinned. Okay. So somebody must be pinned. Maybe that's me. I don't know.
Well, currently I'm pinned.
You're pinned.
Yep.
So that means I can't.
If you want, I can unpin.
Warning. Temperature.
Okay, I just unpinned you, and now I'm trying. What does hide self view mean?
It means that you don't want to see you.
Okay, but does that mean you also can't see me?
That I don't know. Right now, I don't see you just because I've. Oh yeah, now I could see you now. So if you hit hide self view, I'll tell you what I get.
Okay, I don't remember where I found it.
Technology, so awesome.
Hide self view. Where did I see that? I don't.
Oh, you turned off your video. Now you turned it on, or you covered it, or something.
Oh, maybe it's covered again. That might have something to do with it. Okay, well, I guess this will have to do because I don't. Chat, meeting settings, minimize settings, virtual background, raise hand, disconnect audio. Participants, you and me, and the video on me is grayed out.
So Larry, tell me what you'd like to see.
Well, all I want to see is you in the game. I'd like to I'd like to understand how the damn thing works.
Well, let's walk through it.
Well, it's not quite that easy. But in order to do that, I now have to set up a place where I can do that. So,
Yeah, well, then we'll put that off until another day.
yeah, maybe it's better that we do that because I wasn't. I'm in a fragile enough state on on various other fronts that something's that's not what I expected it to be is enough to throw me off.
I totally understand.
And
Absolutely.
I honestly thought that all you were going to see of me was that still picture. And
Right. And we can fix that what I'll do is when you're feeling well, we'll do a call
we
and
may
we'll
not
just
want
mess with the settings.
we won't work. If we wait till then, it'll be too long. But maybe one time we'll call just to figure out settings.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay,
That's
but
what
at
I
the
meant to
moment,
say.
but if you don't mind, I can see you in the game,
Good. So the only thing we need to fix now is your audio.
which is
Just that your voice is far away from wherever your microphone is.
where is my microphone? Hold on. I honestly don't know.
Well, it's an iPad, so the microphone is like buried somewhere. It's like invisible. So it's just a matter of
now? Is it worse or better now?
it's a little worse.
Okay. Wait. Is it worse or better now?
It's much better now.
It's better now. Which is my hand covering.
Oh wow,
something.
that was good.
Is it, now how is it?
Great.
Well, I don't know what it did, but now let's see what happens when I turn it to the landscape position, which is what I like to use. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what it was is that the front of my iPad cover is trifold, and I think I have to fold back. I have to fold down the first of the trifolds because I think that partially covers the microphone.
Got it.
Um, which I did. So if you do I sound no longer real far away?
I believe so. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That was 5. All 5 of them.
Okay. Alrighty.
So, Commander, we are 58,000 light seconds away from this little planet that I found that has 38 places to gather stuff.
Maybe
And,
maybe it's where the little prince is.
I love that book. I had to translate that from the French in high school in lieu of taking my 3rd year of French because I couldn't pass it. Dyslexia, whatever. So I had to play the dyslexia card, and then the administration agreed. And so I had to spend one day a week for an hour with Miss Moritz from the French class.
Uh-huh.
And what she had me do is translate The Little Prince.
Oh. Well, that actually sounds like among possible solutions, at least vaguely interesting.
Yeah, actually, I loved it. That was really cool.
We had a French teacher at my. I took 2 years of French while I was in college, and that was enough. I also took it in high school, and we had a French teacher who was from Nice, and he was a classic Southern Frenchman who are dark and swarthy and usually wear tinted glasses and smoke Gauloise, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the whole thing. I and One of our assignments was to write a short story in the style of Voltaire, and
Wow.
I got back my paper and with a note that basically said in French, it would have been an A, but I'm only giving you an A minus because you used some words that were not part of the were not in usage in a 1780. As if I was somehow supposed to know this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's the same one who the class was conducted in French, and some member of the class, especially when you were discussing the niceties of the subtleties of grammar, especially the dreaded subjunctive, it was really hard to cut. It was hard enough to understand if they told you in English. If they were telling it to you in French, it was just maddening. And
Yeah.
somebody in class complained that we always had to speak French and he never had to speak English. And he said, "Ah, anglais? Je parle anglais." And he sort of swallowed hard and screwed his face up as if he was about to do something very distasteful. And he said, "Cabbage." And of course, the word in French is chou.
Yeah.
And it just, but the way he looked as he did it, like it was inconceivable to him that a civilized people would want to make a noise like that.
Yes.
Anglais, je parle anglais.
Yeah, je parle
Cabbage.
anglais. Cabad. Like like when what's his name? Brad Pitt's character in the movie where they kill all the Nazis, and he has to pretend to speak Italian, but he doesn't.
Right.
And he's from the South, and he just goes, "Bonjour." Oh no, buongiorno. That's what he does. And that's one of the best lines.
But it was interesting. I that was I think that was where I learned the insult that I think I've told you I used to ingratiate myself with people in France, especially in Paris, which is where they're the most snooty about the language, which is the ultimate French put down of a non-native French speaker's French, which is he speaks French like a Spanish cow, which in French is "Il parle français comme une vache espagnole." And as I was in a store trying to do something and fumbling around and couldn't find the word, I would say, "Pardonnez-moi, je parle français comme une vache espagnole." And they always would laugh, and then all of a sudden they were on your side.
Yeah.
And they go, no, that's votre French, c'est bien. It was like you had taken care of insulting yourself, so
Right.
they didn't have to do it.
It worked very well. Yeah. I've been to Paris more times than any other international city.
I don't know what it's like now, but I did love Paris. It struck me as sort of the sort of fantasy, very platonic ideal of a cosmopolitan city.
It was that. Yeah.
And then it filled up with automobiles and motorcycles.
It filled up with that, and it became more and more culturally homogenized with world trends.
Yeah, like everything else.
Right.
But there was a time when I first went in 1970 when it really did. I'd always thought of New York as like the apogee of a cosmopolis, and Paris just blew it away.
It was amazing, really. I mean, I've been to Madrid and Rome and London, Tokyo. Just
were these all in your Microsoft job?
Yeah, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, many times Amsterdam.
More places than I have.
I've been all over the place. But and what I would do is I would always schedule an extra day to just walk around.
Yeah.
No cabs, no trains, just walk and walk and walk and walk the whole day.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I would do is I would arrange it so I had more than one free day, but it's probably not as easy for you. Sometimes I would actually take one of the like tourist bus tours
Yep.
just to get an idea of where I wanted to go back to on my own.
Yeah, just to kind of get a map. Yeah.
Yeah, and to get a sort of a sense of the layout of the city. But yeah, travel was a huge pork barrel perk of my job. Because the truth is, on most movies, there were a few exceptions, but on most of them, they were kind of they were going, they were taking care of themselves.
Right.
They were either going fine, or the things that weren't going fine, there was nothing anybody could do about it. So I would, at some point in the middle of the day, say, well, I have to go back to my room now and read a few scripts, so I'll see you at dinner time. And then I just take off and have fun.
Yeah. I got better at that as my career went on. I used to be like the first one in, last one out, whenever I traveled, because I figured, well, I came all this way, I need as strong a connection with these people as possible. And then I just got better at it. I just was like, no, that's not necessary. We've got two planets right next to each other. And
I realized at some point, in general, they were happy to see you go. So, in my case, just because it was the network,
Mm-hmm.
But it did give me a chance to go to some amazing places. And it's very nice to travel when you're there for a reason.
Yeah.
You meet people and you get to see things that a regular tourist would not.
Yeah, I always wanted to do the thing where you stay with some family or something. Like you have some reason to be there that's not a business, but also not, I don't know, trivial.
Mm-hmm.
I never found that, but I always wanted to find that. The closest I ever got was Shanghai. We have very good friends here who are Chinese from Shanghai and who live in Spokane, and they really they set me up so that I could spend like a few days with the cousins, right? Just outside of the city, the whole deal. But during the week that I was doing the event that I was doing, which was the Global CIO Summit from Microsoft, of course, I went outside, breathed a little air, and immediately got pneumonia. So I couldn't finish the trip, basically. Once I was done with the event, I had to just go. So that was a bummer, because that's the closest I ever got. I feel quite certain they would have given me the
I'm sure,
the effect that I was hoping for.
A whole different side of
Yeah.
of the culture and the life. That's too bad.
Yeah, that was the closest I ever got. I wanted to do that in Japan, and we do have friends who have family not in Tokyo, but in Japan, and it just, the tricky thing about the last 3 years has been there's no more business trips, right? And so I don't have that excuse anymore, and so you have to travel. You have to plan your own travel, and I found that I don't really like to do that. I hate it. So
yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, we've done many different kinds, but Kathy and I just like to be comfortable, and we like to move slow, and we don't like things that feel cookie cutter. So
They feel what? They feel what?
cookie cutter.
Oh, cookie cutter. Yeah. Ooh, what was that?
We just dropped out of faster than light speed, and now we're drifting. very quickly towards the planet's surface. And the place that they told us to go to get goodies is deep in a canyon. And I'm going to have to turn on the ship's ability to show us night vision just so that we can see the canyon. And now we're headed down, and we're about 8 kilometers away, and I'm not having a good feeling about this. I think it's going to be rough terrain down there, but the only way to know for sure is to travel the last little bit and see. So Jasper Yao, our friend and coder for Corvox, has been working on getting the graphics engine to work. He's very excited about that. He was texting me on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
The graphics engine.
Yeah, so theoretically, when we're doing this show together, we're supposed to be speaking not just to each other, but to the AI, right?
Right.
And the AI needs to be able to communicate back to us, not with words, not with like text or, not like we communicate.
Just with mild electric shocks.
Yeah. Basically a random set of graphics, like something that helps us know if it can hear us and whether or not it's getting words that it can use, right? And maybe even someday a special noise when it thinks that what we just did was real dialogue.
I can't tell you what a compliment it is that Zeb refers to you as first mate alcohol.
I love it.
And, did the book come?
It did. It's downstairs.
Because I got a notification that it had come. I just like to confirm it.
Yep.
Good.
It's there. It's a chunker. You've got to make some time for that.
But listen, it's there. Is it a big book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big, thick book.
Big, thick book.
Yeah, we have that, and I have to read, according to the developer that I'm working with, Jasper, I have to read The Square and the Tower by Niall Ferguson. So it's on my
Got your work
it's on
cut
my
out.
to-do list, as they say.
Do you know this is a sideways segue? Do you know the I don't like to call it science fiction because the stuff that I consider good science fiction is I think better described as speculative fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know the work of Tad Williams?
Oh yeah, I've read a bunch of his stuff.
I think it's Otherland. I think is the
or out.
I just remember that I don't remember where I came across the first volume of it and started to read it, and I don't know whether I bought it or somebody gave it to me, and it took me half of the first book to even figure out what the hell was going on, because it kept bouncing around between the different realities that were being created by this group of it was the ultimate Bilderberg like secret meeting.
It was really pretty intense, going from and he was exhaustive in his descriptions.
Yeah, he is. And then it wasn't until I was almost near the end that I found out it was the first of 3 books.
Right.
The story. But I will say, it's one of the very few times when I have invested that much time in a book that is, first of all, that much volume, and that intense in terms of requiring your full attention when you're reading it, that I felt like it actually paid off at the end. It wasn't like an elaborate setup that sort of piddled away at the end.
Right, which is like the norm.
Yeah, because usually there's so many of these short, limited series, especially the ones that are. There was one I started to watch that took place in Antarctica, where something had gone, all hell had broken loose at some research station, and the first couple of episodes were just so absolutely riveting with hints at fascinating things. But then as it went on, they just kept adding more and more and more wrinkles to everything without ever resolving anything or explaining anything until by like the seventh episode, it didn't even seem to be about what it started out as. I finally gave up on it.
Right. Yeah.
The problem for a lot of those shows is they don't know when they go on the air if they're going to be off in 3 episodes or whether they're going to be on for 5 years.
Right.
And so they'll start plot lines having no idea how the plot in their head of actually where they're going. They're just setting up some or a very intriguing puzzle without having any solution to it in their head.
Yeah, what's his name does that? The guy who did Lost.
Yes. So if the show gets picked up, rather than resolve anything, they just add more and more and more twists and turns without anything ever being resolved, which I find annoying.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of how they tell Toy Story.
Yeah.
My other phone is ringing. Hold on a sec. Hello?
I'm here.
Already? That all of that dog you cleaned already? Now you did dip her in Clorox like I asked, right? I'm teasing. I said you did dip her in Clorox like I asked, right? A woman named Melissa is going to pick her up. You guys had originally handed me back her leather collar, and before I left, I came back in and handed it to a tall, sandy-haired guy. So okay, just make sure it's on her. That's the only collar tag I have for her. So I will now call Melissa and let her know that she can be there in about 20 minutes. No, that's fine. Just the collar. That's right. Yep, that's it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Okay, bear with me while I call the person who's going to pick up my dog.
Of course.
That was fast. But it was fast because I was talking to you. I didn't a lot of.
The time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
When you're interested in what you're doing. Let me see
Let's see here.
Fine. Elizabeth. Caller. We're going fast.
Oh.
Melissa, he will be ready in 20 minutes. And they have her leather collar, but they don't have a lead. So if you do have a leash, bring it with you. If you don't, just they'll help you get her in the car, and I'll give you a leash when I come downstairs. Okay. Okay. Bye. Okay, mission accomplished.
Good. That's not our Melissa, is it?
Our Melissa.
Bloomberg. I'm sorry, not Bloomer.
Oh, that's Marissa.
Marissa, that's right.
This is Melissa.
Okay. They're all the same to me.
Yeah, Melissa, they're all Melissa. It used to be such fun at CBS when somebody else would be in the room. And, Roxanne would go to the bathroom and she'd come back. I say, "Why do you people take so long in the bathroom?" And that was the phrase I always used, was "you people."
Right, you people.
And she, of course, thought it was hysterical. But even back then, people would look slightly aghast.
You people.
It
reminds me of that old joke I use on Kathy like once every 5 years, where I'll get her going. I'll be like, "Oh, life's unfair, and women are this and that," and then she'll go, "Yeah, exactly." And I'll go, "Too bad we own everything."
And sometimes once in a while she'd say, I could get you in trouble for the kind of things you say to me, and I'd say, "Yeah, but remember, you brought that video to work and made me watch them laser off your ovaries." And she'd say, "Oh, yeah, right, I forgot." Which she did.
Yeah, you got me. I had to watch that.
They were a classic case of they tried everything to get. She had a difficult time getting pregnant the first time, and the second time, they tried for years. Fertility drugs, and there was a time when there was a flash. It was one of those torrential downpours that flooded the Sepulveda Basin, and she had to get to a doctor for her semen injection within X number of minutes before it was non-viable. And he stopped at roadblocks and hold up his vial and "I'm trying to get pregnant. I've got 15 minutes to get to the doctor," and they always would let her through.
Right.
And they finally gave up, and 3 months later she was pregnant.
It's amazing.
That happens so often.
Well, it's funny is Kathy. One of her biggest successes as an acupuncturist is helping this whole group of friends over time get pregnant. Right? The acupuncture apparently can help with that. And
acupuncture can help with fertility?
Oh yeah, big time.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So they would have tried everything else, and then they'd come and a few months later they'd be pregnant. And part of what that means is that there's all these people who are like, "Oh, my baby, and you need to help me get my," it's like it creates this whole, and then anytime they have a friend who says she wants to get pregnant, it becomes the first thing that this other person recommends, which kind of creates this chain reaction.
Right, which is the way it should be. Has she tried it on you?
Well, I wouldn't know. I don't know the points, so maybe she's tried.
That might make the New York Times if that were.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just my beer belly without the beer.
Maybe that isn't a beer belly.
It looked like one. It looks like I drink a lot of beer, but I don't.
So at some point here, when Melissa shows up, I'm going to have to go downstairs and collect the dog and hand her things, at which point you can just continue on, and when I'm back upstairs, I'll just rejoin them. But that's a good 20 minutes away. So
yeah, very good. I want this rock.
Now, are we down in the chasm?
Yeah, we are in the cavern. If we look up, you can see the cavern that we're in. And
so you did make it down the treacherous slope.
Yeah, it's flat. It was flatter at the bottom than I predicted. And then we picked up some goodies. And now I need the ship back, but I can't remember where it is. And we just got a warning that says our fuel reserves are at 50%.
And to get fuel, you have to get back to the ship, right?
No, there's other ways. We could synthesize it, use up some of the materials that we've collected. It's only dangerous when you're off somewhere with no materials. and then suddenly you really need the ship back. There's some vanadium there. Vanadium. Another version of unobtainium.
Yeah, kind of unobtainium. I was unaware of that term until the movie Avatar.
Yeah, but then it has this whole history, which is kind of like, oh, okay. Alright, we need to call the ship, because trying to find the ship is going to just get us in trouble. So what we're going to do is...
While you're working on that, I'm looking for the there they are. The envelopes I just made out with the Christmas cards for Melissa and her son Bradley.
Uh-huh.
I'm incredibly talented at losing things. Often things which are in my hand.
I have that skill.
These were I had them in my hand behind the iPad which I was holding. I'm going, God damn it! I just made out those envelopes. Where the hell are they?
I don't see the ship anywhere.
When Roxanne was trying to get pregnant, one of the drugs that she needed was horrendously expensive, and there was and is a drugstore in West Hollywood, which is, especially in the early days of HIV, it was the drugstore for those drugs. And I saw an ad in a local paper that said, that they would, even if they didn't take your insurance, they would match whatever the insurance price was on these drugs. And she was having a terrible time finding any place that took the insurance. And I said, try Capital Drugs. And she went, and it worked out. She did get it there, and she got it at the price she could have gotten it for if someplace took her insurance. But she said the thing that was fascinating about it was they were so astonished to see a girl, and a girl who wanted to get pregnant.
Right.
It was like people were calling people over and saying, "See that this is Roxanne Bloomer. Like she wants a fertility drug." Everybody else was there for some HIV drug.
Let me see.
Oh wow, you're a girl. Gee, it was pretty funny, but it worked.
Hey.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, we do know a great acupuncturist in Santa Monica area. In case you ever want to try it.
Okay, well, I did try it once, but it wasn't a great acupuncturist because she, I think I only had a couple of sessions with her, saying things to a new client like, "You're too tight, relax." It really isn't helpful.
Don't think about what I'm saying.
The last thing that makes a tense person relax is to yell "relax" at them.
Right.
Did you ever see the Bob? You know who Bob Newhart was?
Oh yeah.
He had a number of shows that probably the one that did the best and was probably the best conceived and written was the one where he was a psychologist. And there was a wonderful episode where he had a new patient, and she complained that I think she had two complaints, but one of them was she was terrified that somebody would come up and snatch her and bury her alive in a box. And he said to her, "That's ridiculous. Stop thinking like that." Stop thinking like that, or I'm going to bury you alive in a box. And she
Man,
went, oh, you know, I think that worked.
I think that worked. See, I wouldn't be able to do it. So let's see. All right, we checked out a planet. Well done.
And we collected some stuff.
We collected stuff. Now we have to get back on our path. So we're checking our path. Here we are. And let's see. Okay, 3 jumps till the fuel star.
Frameshift drive charging.
Here we go. So how loud is the game?
To me,
Yeah.
it is. Well, in that moment, it was pretty loud, but in general, it's 20% louder than your voice.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
too loud.
But, well, it's not so loud that it's annoying.
Oh, really? But it's 20% louder than my voice.
Yes.
And I got to.
Well, it's 20% louder than your voice when it's doing something, like
Right.
like what just happened. When you're just roaming around and picking stuff up, it's just background noise.
Temperature critical.
And it's apparently it also talks. It seems to have said something.
Yeah, it says.
And
temperature critical.
I can't hear what it's saying. It's too soft.
Okay.
Not that I need to.
But it cuts off my voice. Like if it does something loud and I'm speaking, it'll cut me off, right?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, that's good. Okay. What am I supposed to be doing here?
I'll listen for that the next time.
Okay.
It's just that when it's doing something big, like changing from to warp speed,
It gets loud.
or something, it gets considerably louder, but it doesn't replace your voice.
Okay. All right. Well, that's important. It doesn't do that to you either. But at one point, that was a major problem with our recordings. Was that the video game was basically shutting my voice off. And so I'd be like, and then Larry, the guy said to me, and like,
Yeah. Oh, that's not happening anymore.
okay. So I checked the last recording. You saw you may have seen that I put it up live on YouTube. Or no.
No, I didn't actually.
Okay. Your face in the Compton,
In my
Princeton.
Compton.
Your Princeton hat, right? Straight out of Princeton hat. That's the thumbnail for that episode 6.
It's up as you had an interesting name for this episode. What was it?
Let's see. So it's funny because the way that it wraps, it doesn't make it easy to see. I just said new audio solution.
Oh, I thought I might have said something like the wrong episode.
No, just wrong show is the name of the show.
Oh, the wrong show. Okay.
So it always says the wrong show, and then episode, whatever the number is, and then
I
a
like
little
that.
statement about what happens, right? Like Larry and Michael talk about pregnancy,
It's,
that kind of thing. And I always edit it after we've done the show. So the first version that goes live is kind of, and then,
it's the rough cut.
yeah, it's the rough cut. So our episode 1 is, let's see, details. The wrong show, episode 1. Larry and Michael figure out the format. And then episode 2 is Larry and Michael still figure out the format. And
Yeah, as I said, in a different time, we'll just sit down and help me figure out, what 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 buttons do what,
Right.
and
An
the fact
episode.
that you're
Yeah.
fact you're a PC and I'm on an iPad, um, makes things just different enough.
Yeah. It's hard to direct.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So then yeah. Okay. I'm just checking them, and then I have a random episode where it's just the cat being petted. Like there's no game, no nothing. It's just Solomon being petted. Um,
It sounds like the sort of thing that when this becomes another seminal work, like I told Zeb you use that word to describe, say you really would like an actual copy of the book because you consider it seminal. Um,
yes.
when this becomes seminal, the cat episode, someone will do a doctoral thesis on it
Yes. Right. Right. Why did it have more views?
and find meaning where there is none.
Right. That's what we need. So, by the way, I have been thinking a lot about the progression of this thing. Um, next week, next week is it? No, the week after. I'm going to meet with the Paul Allen AI group. Um, Paul Allen of Microsoft fame,
Uh-huh.
um, because they sponsor companies that are doing formative research in AI. So we'll see if that's worth our time or not. And
Listen, the fact that you can even get a meeting like that impresses me.
well, I've taken to applying for things with a very snarky attitude, and I think it's made a big difference. So I'll write things like you know, just snarky. Just be like, I'm
What
doing
is
this.
what in your version? What in your mind is snarky?
Like I'll be like, this is what I'm doing, and the reason why I'm doing it is this, and I don't think you probably will get it. Like, or I'll say I'm a concrete artist and an abstract thinker, and fair warning, I disrupt things. You know.
That isn't snarky.
Okay.
That
What's snarky?
um, snarky is now that I said that, as if I have an answer. Snarky is has an underlying cynicism to it,
Ah,
where you're sort of dismissive of something at the same time that you're critiquing it or talking about it. And what you're doing is more of I'm writing this to you with no expectations you will find it interesting, but I'm writing it to you anyway. And that actually gets people's attention.
yeah, because I have fun filling it out. Basically, my rule is, if I'm not having fun, don't finish the application. Right.
And it's because
So
it's different. It's different. It's one of the things that always fascinates me is you read people's because I still will get resumes from people or cover letters and things. And they'll ask me what I do. Sometimes because they've actually sent them to me. Sometimes because they want my input. And you can tell when you look at them, they've all read the same books
yeah,
on how to write an effective resume or how to write an effective cover letter, which means, of course, they all are exactly the same. And I'll say to people sometimes is, what you have to remember is the people reading this read the same books. So they know exactly what you're doing. You're not psychologically manipulating them by the way you're using their name at least once in every paragraph. They're
right.
completely aware of what they're doing because they've read the book. So when you do something totally different, it at least gets people's attention. When I quit the New York City Ballet and had no job, and decided I was going to try again to get into film and television, and it was way before computers. All there was the yellow pages, and I just wrote to everybody listed under film and television producers, and had the, a woman who could have had a sitcom written about her, who sat behind a typewriter building near in the Broadway area, typing up people's resumes. I started by saying, I have no mutual friend. I have no mutual friend to mention or a similar perk to your attention. But I'm hoping you'll take a few minutes and read what I would like to tell you. And I started. The next thing I say is, I made a mistake. I started in a direction in my career, which it took me 5 years to figure out wasn't the direction I wanted to go. And I need to start over. And I realized, despite my highfalutin resume, I will need to start at the bottom, and I'm willing to do that. And what I think I have to offer is a combination of an understanding that it is a business, and I do have an ability to function in terms of understanding a business exists to make money, and a creative imagination, and I'm able to combine the two so that at the same time. And out of 200 letters that I wrote, I got 3 back, but one of them turned into a job.
Amazing.
And I got one from a guy who said, I don't have anything right now to offer you, but I was just so intrigued by your letter, I just wanted to write back to you and ask you to stay in touch, and maybe one of these days I will have something. But it was, I can say on the surface, it was deliberate in terms of knowing that I was, kind of trying a different way of grabbing somebody's attention, but it also happened to be the truth.
Right.
And that's and I just knew it wasn't like everybody's letter starts with, Paul so-and-so, who works at such and such, and apparently has a relationship with you, suggested that I write you. And I just thought, I'm not going to pretend any of that stuff. And people don't usually start by saying they fucked up. Honesty just tends to get people's attention. You need to have something to back it up,
right?
But I enclosed as my resume, which has a master's from Yale and a summa cum laude BA from Princeton, and saying, I expect to start at the bottom. Lets them know that
those are powerful brands.
I'm not going to slide. I'm not going to glide in the front door. I'll run the vice president.
Right. It really helps. It's funny that the Hampshire brand only helps in certain circles. I was very lucky, actually, that George ran that program that he did, because I don't think I made it to the West Coast.
You are, because it's such a different kind of schooling that it only helps in certain circles.
Right.
But in the circles that it helps in, it can help a lot.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching one of the popular shows on Disney Plus this last week, The Mandalorian, and Kathleen Kennedy's name is there, and I'm like, oh, I met with her because she's a Hampshire alum, right? But I also met her assistant, and her assistant scared the hell out of me. But yeah, every once in a while I'll see a name and I'll go, oh yeah, that's a Hampshire alum. And I don't see that anywhere else. There's a lot of them in film. Oh, this planet has very heavy gravity. That's unusual for a planet with stuff on it. Usually we get these tiny little planets with, where you're bouncing around like it's the moon. And this planet, stuff just falls straight to the ground. And buggy, does not get any airtime on hills. And it stops quickly when you stop giving it gas. Oh, you can still spin out. That's good to know. So, where were we? Oh yeah, perspective. And not coming at people from the way they anticipate, and yet telling the truth. There's something to that in productive dialogue.
Oh yeah, it's so much of other approaches are based on what are supposed to be such subtle ways of manipulating other people's feelings that they don't realize they're being manipulated, except they do.
Well, or to put a different view on the table, I'm not sure I agree with the view I'm about to express, but I know it's out there. You're demonstrating that you're capable of a minimum level of compliance.
Minimum level of
compliance. That you're able to make your resume look, quote unquote, the right way. That you're able to find a contact and do the work to make sure that it's a.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. My only at the time now it's all over the place. But at the time I did it on gray paper. Nobody. They were always on white. But I did it mostly just thinking. Somebody who's looking. If somebody decides I got something from somebody a couple of weeks ago that was, at least if they're looking around their desk, there's a fighting chance they'll be able to find it.
Right.
But yeah, right. It was. I hadn't thought of it that way, Michael. But I did the things that show that you know how to work within the system, and then skewed them slightly.
Right, and that's the edge. Is that you have the credibility to be creative.
The spelling was correct. I would get resumes from people, in which sometimes they were like the typing was on a slant because they put, it was back when you actually typed letters and and basic words would be misspelled, and you think, if this is the best somebody can do when they're trying to get a job, what will they do when they have a job?
Right.
And aren't as desperate. And it was the woman who typed it who taught me how to spell liaison. Because I guess I left one of the I's out. She said, "It's all right, everybody does it." She said,
sorry, go ahead.
She wore harlequin glasses with fake rhinestones on them, and a chain, in case she could bring that. And she worked for this company that did resumes. It was owned by her, I think, her brother-in-law, and I would go in with my one to be done, and I basically would stay and let her talk for 45 minutes, and tell me all the horrible things about her job.
There you go.
And
that's the key.
And it actually was. And that was the point that why don't you take this and put it here, or I think you should rearrange this and put but it mostly came out of I was just willing to listen to her tale of woe, which was pretty woeful in some ways. But I didn't just drop something off and come back for it, as most people. and and I do think it helped. If nothing else,
That was the
if nothing
compliment
else,
somebody paid. Oh, go ahead. If nothing else.
at least I learned to spell liaison.
You know, it's funny. That's an interesting statement for somebody like me because I'm a dyslexic. So I can learn how to spell liaison and then unlearn it.
I can
It goes
understand.
away.
I to this day, there's words that are either IE or EI, and not like, rare words. I mean, words like weird,
Or receive.
where I still have to stop and I'm not sure. I used to have to look them up. Now, of course, we do the spell check.
Right.
Roxanne told me I was a truly atrocious speller.
What did she say?
She said I was an atrocious speller, and she corrected most of my mistakes herself.
I
But I can do the same thing. I can learn it, and 3 weeks later, it disappeared.
Right. It's funny because when I was at Microsoft doing these CIO summits, one of my big responsibilities was to iterate on the agenda. So you have this document, you end up with like 50 copies of it over the course of 6 months, right? Maybe 60 copies, because you're constantly making changes. And one of the problems I had is that I would introduce new errors with each, like I would fix something, and then I would introduce a new error, and then I would fix something, and then I would introduce a new error. So when it came time to start showing the resume to people who would find that unacceptable, I couldn't trust just anybody to copy edit. I needed somebody who had real skill as a copy editor, and there was nobody who was employed by me or who owed enough loyalty to me to give me that level of attention to the document. And so we had a consultant, a contractor, who was in New York, and she was a professional manuscript editor, and she would charge just a few $100 to just look at something as short as a 2 or 3 page resume. Not resume, agenda. And I would always get on the phone with her, and we would walk through all of the things that she'd notated, because we'd have to know the difference between something that was correct because technology people just think that way, or incorrect because that's just bad grammar.
Right.
And I would always show huge deference to her, like, oh, thank you, and your time, and whatever she needed, because I knew that without that, I would be unprofessional. I just wouldn't meet up to the minimum.
You were letting her know that you understood she had a skill that was not universal and that you appreciated it.
Yeah. And she eventually retired, and I had a nice long conversation with her about what she was going to do, and what books she wanted to read.
I think that's.
Okay. Go ahead. We'll talk in a bit.
Hello. No, I tipped her. Okay. Bye. She's actually picking up the dog.
Oh, okay.
And forgot that I told her that I had tipped the agreement already. But you were talking about.
Well, and so
I know what
since she retired. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you just reminded me that I wrote a paper on Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice at Princeton University, in which I spelled the word vanity wrong 23 times. I spelled it vainty. 23 times.
Yeah, well, if you miss it the first time, it's just going to let it keep going.
And my thesis, which was a 60-page preface to the directing of the play Murat Sod, I got an A minus on, and probably would have gotten an A if it wasn't for as the professor who said very complimentary things about me, starting with first, this paper shows a first-grade intelligence, and then he went on through other stuff. But he said at the bottom, however, we all have a responsibility to avoid such atrocities as, and then a long list of words that I spelled wrong.
Yep.
And he was right.
Yeah,
and I had
totally.
I had reread that thing probably 20 times.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of selective blindness, and I blame the dyslexia, but it doesn't mean that that's it. It just means that you can't see it.
I'm sure you know that there's a defaulty thing where people tend to see what they expect to see.
Yes.
Talk about jobs from hell. Back before machines could do it, Time magazine's proofreaders were forced to read articles backwards,
Yeah,
so that they couldn't possibly, see a word that wasn't there because it was supposed to be there.
Right.
Because
yet, your brain gets good at that too.
and it just to this day, I will send people emails and they'll say, well, I'm assuming what you meant, Larry, was, and I've read it 5 times before I send it.
Yep.
And it's just, I figure there's enough things that I'm good at that, I can live with it.
Yeah, no, I'm at a point now where what I really do is I try to find good editors. Just a roster of people who are, because I have in the new year, I'm hoping in January that a contract will come my way for doing something that relates to some research I need to accomplish for Corvox, right? So a young company that's making money, wants to build a better relationship with its developer community, the people out there who use the product who are generally developers. And the problem is that when you want to invest in a community of people that you're never going to really know that much, it looks like a money pit, right?
Yeah.
Or you spend too much money kind of creating the base, and then you never actually get the deep connection. You never get the actual dialogue to occur.
Uh-huh.
This is like 90% of the digital communities that I've ever witnessed, worked on, or otherwise been involved with for companies. They all suffer from this problem. And then a year later, it doesn't seem like it's worth it, so you cut the budget, and everybody who believed in the community...
Was that green laser light something that you were using to chop off a piece of something?
Yep.
To collect it?
Yep. Okay. That is the ship's laser. Here, watch.
I have found that frequently when I'm when I would be up for a promotion or asked to do a particular job, that again, it was a combination of honesty and I don't know, just I'm saying, I'm not sure you want me for this because here are the things I'm terrible at. And I say things like, my spelling is atrocious. I don't wear a coat. I don't wear a suit and tie to work because it just isn't me. I'm not gonna be in the office till 8 o'clock at night just because everybody else is in the office till 8 o'clock at night. When I have finished what I consider to be a productive day and done as much as I can do, I will be going home. And you probably want somebody who's more like, what everybody else does in this business. And unfortunately, that's just the way I am. And inevitably, what would happen is they get more interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a fine line because that's exactly how I want to be. That's who I want to be. But sometimes they get more interested because you're talking to the right person. And sometimes you have to get through 4 or 5 people to get to that person.
Yeah, to somebody who's
Right.
smart enough to get it.
Right. And that's the key for me, is that uh, it's not a given, and you can't. If you do it with the wrong person, they're not going to get it. They're not going to connect. So you have to kind of judge it. And I just happened to be in a great conversation with somebody who got it. And I wasn't trying to sell her on anything. I just said, well, we talked about my interests. What about yours? What are you doing? And she talked about what she was doing. I was like, oh. So I just described the problem back to her, and I said, this is what we learned, and this is how we solved the problem. And if you want any advice, I can, send it to you. And this is how you save money and not waste it. And she's like, okay, I want you to do the project.
Bear
Okay.
with me here for a second. I'm trying to figure out some way to get my iPad plugged in.
Oh, it's low in power?
It is low on power because I think because the goddamn let's see here. Let's see if it's doing anything. Bear with me. Ink.
Landing gear
It's now charging. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes I can't tell if it gets low enough. The little icon that shows you that it's charging is red instead of green because it's in the warning zone area.
Yep.
But sometimes it's red because it's not doing anything. But we'll see soon. This apartment, for whoever designed it, half of the power outlets are the ground ground frequency interrupters, the kind that make you use in a bathroom.
Yeah. The one with the fuse in it.
And sometimes the reset button on it gets accidentally hit, usually by the housekeepers. And I'll be plugging things in, thinking that I'm charging something, and it's not actually working. And I think that was what was happening with this. But
Yeah, you think it's on, you think it's charging, and it's not.
and the number still seems to be getting lower, not higher. So let me see what happens when I unplug it. Let me plug it in. No, I think it is. I think it is charged.
Okay.
One thing I have discovered, which I think I have little wires here. I've made a mess, which is annoying myself. One thing I've learned, I have a very good friend, and the guy who owns the little company is Anglo, and so I can explain things to him, and he can explain it to the crew. But it's just impossible with people who clean houses for a living and are Latin. It may be true if there are people who are white who do it, but except I never see any. The idea that electronic equipment, you can't just if you're dusting it, just run a dust cloth across everything and push all the buttons on it at the same time.
Right. Right.
Uh, you know, and they inevitably unplug my Alexa to plug in the vacuum cleaner and then don't plug it back in,
Yeah.
which
Man.
wouldn't be a big deal, except I use it for reminders.
Right.
And so I won't get reminded of something, that's when I will find out that for 3 days it hasn't been working.
So you're dealing with cables right now?
No, I unwrapped them sufficiently so that looking at they're still tangled up, but not so badly that it's distracting my attention. I swear to God, Michael, that the wires have a life of their own. Every 3 months I pull the bed away from the wall and the bed and everything, and untangle all of the wires for everything that's back there. And then somehow 6 months later, they're all tangled up again in ways that it would seem the only way it could happen would be if you need like two hands to like
Right.
intentionally, like, create.
Wait, did you stop speaking?
No, I did not stop speaking.
Oh, so you said intentionally.
Intentionally. I don't know what I was. What
You were saying the only way the cables could have gotten back is if with two hands you twisted it or something.
Just be an accident. It's like they're such they're intertwined so elaborately that just doesn't seem it could happen by accident. It's like
right.
It's like when you're asleep, they rearrange themselves.
Yeah, gnomes.
On purpose, just to annoy you.
Where are
so
we?
I'm up from 5% to 6%, so that's a good sign.
All right. Let's see what we got here. 2 stars, 3 stars. Okay. And how many planets was it again? How many bodies? 49. Okay. So that's a discrepancy. Let's see what we've got. 49 is a lot.
49 is a lot of what?
Planetary bodies that have been not discovered yet in this system. So now we have 4 out of 49. 5 out of 49. There's a lot of stuff here.
Hold on.
Yep.
Shit.
Go ahead.
God damn it. Hello? Okay, I'll be down in a second. Bye. I spilled my water when I was answering the phone. Let me see if I spilled it on anything important. No, I did not. But I am now about to disappear for about 5 minutes.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. Icy body. And icy body. And icy body. And icy body. Icy body. Nothing else right here. Let's go find the others. What's this one? Icy body. Okay. Gas giant with ammonia-based life. And What's that? It's gonna be an icy body with geological likely. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, 49.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
I think I'm up to 8%. So
Definitely powering. So where
yeah,
were we
where were we?
in our discussion?
We were discussing getting to the right person who understands. I think
Ah, yes. That
that,
was
who who didn't get their job by doing exactly what you're saying is you know too cookie cutter.
right. The minimum bar, the you know, the ability to comply, I guess.
I I once got a job solicitation letter from somebody who, in the course of a one-page you know letter, mentioned my name 23 times. And I said to Roxanne, this guy obviously took a course in how to write an effective, pitch letter, and was told mention the person's name as frequently as possible. It was like every second sentence that someone said, because Larry, I think you'll find Larry,
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things that with me has the opposite effect. You know,
Right.
it says I, I don't mind being manipulated if it's clever. I, but
But when it's a
when
blunt object,
when
it's
it's a
just
blunt
not.
object, it's like like oh he must really like me. Yeah, listen, the way I got in the training program was I, I I was working as a production supervisor on one of the soaps in New York, which was a kind of a gray collar job. It was you were the person between management and all the union personnel, and sort of responsible for seeing to it that the show got made every day and
Right.
dealt with the interplay of management and unions. And it was considered for many an aspirational job. A production supervisor was something people, worked to become. Um, and for me, it was had nothing to do with what I wanted to do.
Right.
And once a month, by company policy, they posted new job listings. And once a month, I would look on the board, and there was never anything of interest. And then there was this training program where they paid whatever you were making for a year, and at the end of the year, there was no guarantee you would be employed, but you were supposed to have found a place you wanted to be, and they were supposed to have decided they wanted you. And I applied, and what used to be called personnel, the woman called me in and said, that I had a fascinating resume, but I was completely wrong for what they were looking for. I was too old. I was 34, and I was making too much money. I was making $34,000 a year, and it was really for kids in their 20s who were just starting out. In fact, it was the first year the company had even allowed employees to apply. They usually went right to universities, to their film and television departments.
Mm-hmm.
And I pleaded with her to send my resume along, and she said, "Okay, but you shouldn't get your hopes up." Well, it turned out the guy who was in charge of picking three people from New York to join four people from Los Angeles as the seven finalists, who would then be interviewed by every vice president CBS had, um, loved the fact that absolutely everything about me was wrong. I, and not what he was told he was supposed to be looking for, and that I had actually gotten my hands dirty making television. I wasn't. It wasn't all theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
And he was only in that position because the person in charge of programming in New York had been bumped up the ladder and was now in Los Angeles, and the person who would be taking over for him had not arrived yet. So for 6 weeks, this other
He.
guy, Fred Rappaport, was in charge, and it happened to be the 6 weeks during which these resumes came in, and it was solely because I learned that because I got to know him some, that the thing that I know that got his attention was he said, "Here's one I promised I'd send along, but everything about it is wrong." And
I love it.
I only met with him in the CBS building, which was called Black Rock, which was this
Mm-hmm.
big bronze and steel behemoth on Sixth Avenue on Saturdays. There was one point at which I wasn't actually sure he worked for the company because I never saw him there during work hours. It was
Then you were
either
like, mm,
it was either like 7 o'clock at night or a weekend. I but and it turned out that it was my my not being like everybody else that got his attention.
yep.
I,
One of these things is not like the others.
Not like one of these things is not like the others, right? I, and so it worked out. Um, at the level I was working, the company policy was if you were at that level of job, you were supposed to have to be with the company 18 months before you could be moved to a different position. and I only been there 15 months. So I had to ask my boss's boss permission to even apply. And he said, okay. And I came out to California for the week of interviews, and I came in the Monday after, when I got back to New York. I came in very early because I knew I'd have a slew of stuff that he piled up on my desk. I happened to get there just as my boss's boss was opening the office suite. He said, "Oh, hi, Larry, how'd it go?" And I said, "Well, I got it." He said, "What? What? The only reason I let you apply was I didn't think you had a chance in hell. We can't afford it, dude."
What? What? This is unacceptable.
And my hazing was there was probably 20 production supervisors. The cool ones worked in sports, and because they got to travel all over the world, and golf tournaments and stuff. And there was they put me on one of the soap operas because of my background in theater, which was considered sort of a career dead end if you wanted to be a production supervisor.
Right.
But it happened to be the one thing that interested me the most. But my first week of training was with Fred, who was in charge of variety specials, which is everything from the Miss Universe pageant to David Copperfield magic specials. And once in a while, in my 15 months, they would have me, they'd say, we have to move you around a little bit so you know how other things work. And he said, so it was a Saturday that I was assigned to a sports cohort, which meant coordination. And it was the room in which all the input came in from all the locations and somehow had to be put together so they got on the screen in the correct order, with people's lips, in sync with their voices.
Right.
And they gave me a training session, and I did not understand a word they said. And I just thought, well, at least I'll never have to do this. So I said, okay. Well, lo and behold, a couple of months later, there's some special going on that Fred's in charge of, and he calls me at home and he says, "We're having real problems here. Could you come in?" And I said, "Okay." And I came in and he said, "You used to do this, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, Could you go down to videotape and figure out what the hell's going on?" And I said, "Okay." And so I went down to the videotape, and partly because, and I think I told you the story, on my days off, sometimes I would go around the building and just meet people that I only talked to on the phone, and not when I didn't need anything. And they were always had a hard time really absorbing the idea that I honestly didn't need anything. And I went in and I just said, "Oh, up in cohort 7C, they're having this problem, and it must be because of this, but and they forgot to plug in." As I said, "Can you fix it?" And he said, "Oh, sure." And he did whatever he did. And I went back upstairs and it was okay. And Fred said, "Oh, good, thanks." And I had no idea what they did.
Yeah. Right. I don't know how it worked. Got fixed.
But it was part of my claim to fame was that I had experience in this stuff. So I couldn't very well say, "I don't know how to do this."
Yeah. You had to be like, okay, heading down.
I said, "All right." And fortunately, as I said, the guy I talked to said, "Oh, I know what that is." Does that sound right to you? I said, "Yeah."
Yeah. Oh, man. My family has a text chain going, and all morning long it's been buzzing. I assume they're all saying Merry Christmas or something to each other.
Probably.
But I'll find out later.
My dad told me when he worked for General Electric, he worked in upstate New York at a super secret nuclear power plant where they were building the engine for the second atomic submarine, which was called the Seawolf. Damn it. It's, hmm, it's not, I don't know what's going on, Michael. It's not charging the way it's supposed to.
Okay,
Oh, I may have to leave you soon. Um,
that's
I,
okay.
it may have something to do with the charger I'm using.
It's totally fine. You know, we're at 313. So,
I do have to eventually figure out how to do this. I'm just
yeah.
not sure what's going on.
You know,
But
sometimes the transformers fail in the little plug
yeah,
adapter.
and also after the wires have been bent a million times, sometimes they don't work so well. So I may have to leave you soon.
Okay.
Um, but I don't remember what I was even saying now.
Seawolf.
Oh, the Seawolf. Um, and why would I be why I was telling you a story about that? I don't. Oh, I know what it was. He said he and some of his buddies were assigned the task of coming up with what was the safe level of radiation to which employees could be exposed. And he
Okay.
said that they got together over a weekend and basically made up numbers based
Mm-hmm.
purely on conjecture. And he
Right.
said 40 years later, they were still being used and they were in textbooks.
Wow.
And he said, it made you wonder about every other, numbers like that. Cause he said, we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, we made the best intelligent guess we could, but it was purely a guess.
And it just
And
locked in.
and then I read that this was in the New Yorker, that in the safe level of mercury in food,
Mm-hmm.
they the way they did it was they found some island off the coast of Iceland or Norway or somewhere where the people's only source of food, especially in the winter, was fish that were very high in mercury, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
very high percentage of people with with um, with mental retardation and other mental issues that can go along with mercury poisoning.
Right.
And they figured out how much they were eating of it, and that clearly was a danger amount. And then just to be safe, they multiplied it by 10 million.
Parts per million.
And 10 parts per million.
Yeah.
Well, no, they multiplied it by by whatever the number was. They multiplied by 10 million. So if the number was 3 parts per million, they made it 300,000 parts per million as being
Right.
unsafe. When there was no actual evidence that was dangerous, they just wanted to be on the safe side.
Right.
So when people say, "Oh, you can't eat that. That's got such X amount of mercury in it," you go, "Yeah, but no, nobody has it may be in scientific publications, but it's a made up number.
Yeah.
But because it's written down, it must be true."
Well, it's like the expiration dates on everything, right?
Oh yeah, I figured out a long time ago that I've noticed a lot of them now say best when used by,
Yeah. Yeah. They're trying to.
as opposed to used before or expires as of, and in general, depending on what it is, if it's meat, I give it 3 or 4 days past its use by date. But if it's canned goods, sometimes I give it a year.
Yep.
I
Sounds about
figure
right.
if I open it and it looks weird, or makes the kind of noise, or if the can is bulging, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah. Bulging is bad.
So I'm afraid
Gases
I
are
will
being produced.
go.
Yeah.
And good luck with the rest of your hunting.
Yes. Well,
And
I'm going to land the ship, and then I'll shut down, and Kathy and I'll go do whatever it is we're going to do, whatever the
okay,
projects are.
all righty.
And thank you for the
Thank you.
time.
And
And if not
uh,
earlier than next week, but maybe even during the week, we'll see.
yeah, yeah. As I said, let's keep it impromptu. I like that.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Even if we talk about other stuff, I like it. Um, so, okay, first mate, talk to you soon.
Take care, Commander.
Bye.
Bye-bye. What do I do now? Oh, yeah. I gotta do this. Go. And then while that's doing that,